It's in the can.
Is this a rugby show or? I wouldn't mind actually. There's some things to say.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to Inferno TV. As usual, I'm joined on the sofa by Aled and John from Icetime TV, and we're going to be having a quick review of the Fife and Sheffield games from the other week ago, and then obviously we'll be chatting about the Belfast games that we've just had, and some incidents from those games, maybe going over that in a little bit of detail. So let's start.
I feel like I'm looking like a bit of a prima donna, the only one with the water.
How is that water? Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
As you made someone walk the whole
They
way
haven't
through
seen the
the
dressing room,
game.
have they, Aled? The white room with all the
I
flowers
tell
in.
you.
It was a bit like Mariah Carey. But
And the makeup artist.
yeah, we do our best. Aled was the only one who had a hairstylist, but they were rubbish.
I'd be happy if I was sitting next to Mariah Carey.
Sorry about that. Sorry to let you down.
So, so Fife are going through a difficult period, I think it's fair to say. They're struggling at the moment, and their fans, some of their fans have been fairly harsh in their criticism, and maybe fairly so, but always a difficult place to go and play, difficult place to go and get a win in their barn. Away at the moment, they're not looking too good. But what did you make of that game?
Just a big road win where the preparation was very good. I think on the night Fife outshot us, but speaking to Andrew Lord, the sort of the boxing out was good. So a lot of those shots were coming from the outside, and Ben Bounds was well protected. So just the sort of game that you had a feeling in previous seasons we might have gone and lost in an intimidating building. So I think it speaks very highly for the Devils when still probably not playing quite as well as we think this team can. They've gone into a difficult building and got a very, very good road win.
And they flew up, didn't they, as well,
Yes.
which we mentioned on the last show. I was just thinking then, why are my memories of these games less than they should be? But of course it was the weekend before. I think I'm sure that made a difference though, because it sort of nullifies that first period effect going away to a difficult building, and perhaps in the past when you're on a bus for 12 hours you're just looking to hang on for the first period, and if you go a goal behind there it's a lot more difficult, isn't it? So I think that that again just speaks volumes for the investment made in the club, and the ownership right down are serious about winning silverware this year.
Well, exactly that. I just think it's the club again setting their stall out to say we're going to give this team every chance we possibly can to. No one else noticed you spilled something. Just give this team as many chances as they possibly can, or the best chance they possibly can, to compete for that league title. It's just ultra professional, and thankfully the players responded, and it was a very professional and worthy victory.
And it makes a difference then, doesn't it, for the Sheffield game the next night? Because you always think about the journey up, but then it's playing on the Sunday, which is one of the reasons we have more games on a Saturday this year, but then playing Sheffield on the Sunday, the travel back, it doesn't become like an away game then, does it?
No, I think they stayed in Edinburgh, was it overnight? So they had a proper night's sleep, flew back down Sunday morning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they had a proper, you're only talking, is it about an hour and a half from Edinburgh to Fife? So they were there fairly early, got a full night's sleep, flew down. So they weren't overly tired. I think Sheffield came down on the bus. So obviously they've got a bit of
worse for them in a lot of ways.
I think they'd had a hard game the night before as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So they came down, and for me that Sheffield game was the first game this season where I thought we really started to look a bit more fluid on the ice. I think it's a testament to how good the team is that we've been winning games a little bit ugly some of the time. That was the first game where I felt we looked like we were clicking. What did you think?
Well,
were you there?
Typically, it's a lot of people's best game of the year, and I wasn't there. But I did have another commitment, a work-related one. So, just not that I pick and choose games. I am a reasonably dedicated fan of the club. But I did. Unfortunately, there was.
Some things can't be helped. You did a drumming assignment.
I did indeed, yes.
Obviously, those of you who watch the programme know that Aled is a famous drummer, so sometimes he isn't available. I say famous, it could be infamous.
Yes, it's more likely that. It's definitely not the first thing.
But I think you got the game, didn't you, John? So I'm sure we talked on the night.
Yeah, it was Gaz and myself for that Sheffield game, and it was It was a good game. I thought Sheffield brought a lot to the table, and there were periods, particularly the last sort of 8 or 9 minutes of the second period, where I thought they were on top, and the first period was pretty even. Once again, the Devils were just clinical, and we've spoken before about the fact that you do have a lot of scoring depth throughout that team, and just in a spell in the second period, they were able to break the game open again. Bounds was superb in net. Joey Martin got man of the match for his hat trick, and he's just the very essence of a two-way centre. Just solid defensively, takes care of work in his own zone. Fantastic playmaker, and broke the game open with a hat trick of goals. And Thomas Kirker really was a standout performer that night. Just when he had the puck in a very small rink, it sounds a bit weird. He was skating for space. He was finding space. Whether that be without the puck or carrying the puck, he had the Sheffield defenseman retreating all night, and he really was a joy to watch that night. So it was a great atmosphere in the building, and I completely agree with you, John. It was the first night where you felt it was quite a complete performance, and fans and team and everybody were really on the same page.
Yeah, well, we know Sheffield are a very good outfit. They're obviously going to be up there at the end of the season, and hopefully, obviously, we're going to be up there as well. I think it's going to be fairly tight between us. Yeah. And other teams as well, but I think they'll definitely be there. So it was good to see how we coped against them. I thought our game plan this time, definitely we kept them wide, we made it difficult. Roy didn't really get many chances in that game to show what he can do, which is what you want really. A bit like, because Doucette didn't get a lot of chances in that game either really. No. So Sheffield did a similar job on him. Obviously they targeted certain plays. And I thought Lee Salters had a good solid game as well there. I think that was that the one where he scored off the Kirker pass, or was that? Might
have been the week, but against Edinburgh, I think that one was. But I agree with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a good team. I thought it was a good team performance. Very very happy with it, and obviously Bounds was very good again.
He was.
You could see how absolutely gutted he was with the one that was conceded.
Yeah.
Because he really wanted that clean sheet.
Just to say as well, I had the opportunity to interview Paul Thompson afterwards, and he was very honest. It was a nice interview to have. He didn't sugarcoat the issue at all. He felt that Sheffield had lost to a better team, a more intense team that had stepped up on the night. He was very critical of Sheffield's power play because they did have a lot of opportunities in that game. He didn't think they were direct enough, which you perhaps need to be in the big blue tent. Simplify the power play, just get pucks to the net. He felt they were overcomplicating it, making one pass too many. So it was just nice to have a really, really honest, frank appraisal from an away team coach. So I appreciate his time on that.
No, I think that was a fair appraisal from him as well. So people have said that maybe we're going to struggle a bit on the big ice because we struggled a bit on the big ice before. So we go off to Belfast for a double header, obviously on big ice, and it's difficult to win in the SSE. We know that from previous experience. On the first night, which obviously we touched on first, we had a few defensive errors. I thought some of our positional play was a bit naive, probably. Putting it nicely, I thought some of our zonal positioning probably wasn't correct, but nonetheless, we were still right in that game. So let's talk about that game first. What were your thoughts on that game?
I think the offense sort of kept us in the game, didn't it? Really, and the power play, and Belfast are obviously having a little bit of trouble on killing penalties at the moment as well. With was it 6 against Coventry? Four. We had 2 power play goals that night. Was it? But I think all the goals against, it was frustrating, wasn't? We watched the game together. And all the goals against were just defensive errors, not just from defensemen.
No.
I think you could pinpoint a breakdown on every single one of the goals.
Very much so.
And not to sort of single out players or anything, but there was the first goal where Hudson just gave him the inside, and then there was a misplay in terms of perhaps Kirker leaving the zone a bit too early on one of the goals.
You and I got frustrated at that one. I think it's a soft play from Havato, which he's been great all season, but I think it's a soft. When the play breaks down, it's a soft play from him. He doesn't make a clearance out of the zone. He tries to corral the puck and loses a puck battle. But Kirker, who's always thinking offense, and that's great to have, but he's left the zone before we've got proper possession of the puck. And as a result, I think it's Shields who's his man who goes in and scores the goal. So, at that point on Friday night, both you and I were screaming at the telly a little bit.
Yeah, I think there was a few incidents which were frustrating. There was one where a D-man got caught square, too easy to beat, and then there's and Belfast have got some fast players and skillful.
Yeah.
Di Marie.
Yes.
Very good player.
Yeah.
He impressed me. I thought he was excellent. He wasn't the only one, but I thought he was excellent.
No, but I think what was frustrating was that was, I don't think Belfast are playing particularly well.
No.
I felt they were there for the taking that night, and although the Devils were playing a lot of the game, on defence, I thought actually behind with some very good goaltending, they were relatively comfortable, and the breakdowns and obviously then the game-winning goal as well. Perhaps Bangs it was a great finish, but Bangs perhaps just got the angle slightly wrong on that.
I think you want that one back.
And he mentioned, I think, in an interview with you up in Sheffield that it takes a little bit of time to adjust to the angles on the big ice. As good, but in fairness, he kept the team in the game before that as well. But it was just every goal you could pinpoint something that just broke down, and it was frustrating that that happened, because it was very winnable, and without those it could have been a relatively comfortable victory, because I think all the Devils' goals were well worked goals they had to work for.
Honestly, I didn't think we played that well on the night.
No.
I thought there was commitment to shot blocking. I thought some of the shot blocking was great, but I thought a lot of the other plays were soft, tentative plays. I don't think we used the glass particularly well to clear the puck out of our zone. We coughed up a lot in the neutral zone and our zone. I think there was a marked improvement on the Saturday. But again, it's a sign of a good team that you can come out on the Friday night, perhaps not playing particularly well, and get something out of it. But no, in all honesty, when that game finished on Friday night, my natural reaction was we haven't played well in this one. But in years gone by, it's a game we would have lost. So it's testament to a team that will challenge near the top of the league.
No, I think a comment I made on Twitter was it was a generous performance from us.
Yes, that's a very good way.
I thought we were a little bit kind.
Yes.
Because some of our offensive play obviously was excellent, but and certainly our power play is and our special teams are very good at the moment. So
it's clearly we saw it last year as well, a deliberate effort that there is less physicality, which normally requires perhaps it can leave you out of position a bit more. It's a lot easier to recover that on home ice. It's obviously a deliberate element to the game. We've seen it, when the team's gone away this year as well. In Sheffield and Nottingham, it's very clear that that's a deliberate intention, a way of playing like that. But it's a very fine line, I suppose, and it will take a few games to get used. So perhaps the second game, might be the turning point between being a little bit too, as you say, generous or tentative, and then not being fully committed or to the play. I don't mean committed in terms of the effort to win. I think that's but in terms of the individual plays. Where if you're committing to defence or you're committing to, then you commit to it fully. Whereas it just looks a little bit in between now and again when we're away. But
I think a structured road game is perhaps based around being conservative, and I've got no problem with that. I think on the Friday night, that conservative nature strayed into being a bit timid in terms of making plays. And the third goal, I think in the second period break, Andrew Law talked about sort of that gap control the Devils were having all over the ice. Well, there was a huge gap. Tyson Marsh and Trevor Hendricks seemed to be split, and Forney just went straight down the middle. So it was just little plays. Alan's exactly right. Every goal we conceded, you could pinpoint a Devils breakdown that was unnecessary and could have been prevented.
It looked like Lord went away on Friday night. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, it wasn't. I was going to say the same thing. It sounds like we're being overly negative.
Yeah.
So, I think it looked like Lord went away on the Friday night and had a good look at it, because on the Saturday it looked like a different team.
It did.
And I would mention Trevor Hendricks' Saturday performance as being probably my favourite performance he's had this season so far. I thought his positional play was improved. Very good goal he scored as well.
I think it's worth talking about Trevor Hendricks, because I think on some of the webcasts, never criticise it. He's a good player, but certainly I've been a little critical of some of his in-game decisions and taking some silly penalties and when to step up to make a hit and perhaps looking to use that hip check a little bit too often and almost making the play before the offensive player has even been directed towards the boards and allows the offensive player to make a change. I thought against Sheffield he was very good. I thought he took a silly penalty early with a potential high hit, but after that I thought he was very, very solid, played a hard-nosed game, moved the puck well, went back to basics. I think when Trevor Hendricks goes back to basics, he's a very good player. And I think we saw that in the Saturday night in Belfast as well. So I think for all that sometimes, not criticism, but where I've maybe pinpointed him a few times in commentary, it's worth saying, like, yeah, over the last couple of weekends, I think we've seen a return to form of Trevor Hendricks.
Oh, I agree. I was hoping to see that. You only have to look at Trevor's resume to see that he's been successful. He wins things. Teams don't win things with a D-man who doesn't know what he's doing. Trevor knows what he's doing. I thought he started off the season a little bit slow, but I think he's finding his stride now. And we need that. And we need. Like we've got Hotham, who's a hard-nosed D-man as well. But Hendricks, I think, was always a natural hard-nosed D-man.
No, I think it's the intangibles he brings as well. Having a guy who, as soon as there's anything towards any of his teammates, they know he's got their back straight away. And I think that you can't underestimate what that does to a dressing room either, especially over a long league campaign. So and if he's able to back that up on the road, perhaps with those kind of performances as well, where perhaps the positional plays coming together and things like that. Then that's only a good thing, isn't it?
And he knows how to win. He knows how to win. He's won championships, the last 3 years, so...
Yeah. You don't do that if you're not a good player.
No.
No, so I don't think there's any doubt that... and I think, obviously, great to see that he's finding his stride. So, it was a great win for the Devils, but there were some incidents during that game. There was one very notable one where Keith loses his helmet and is leaving the ice and the goal is scored.
Yeah.
Very kindly, Giants TV have sent us over a clip so we can have a look at that to try and make a fair and honest judgment before we had a chat tonight. What we don't want to do is a heat of the moment thing. It's easy sometimes when you've seen something once to make an assumption. We've had a good look at it now. And very very kindly as well, David McGimpsey from the excellent AVFTB. Has sent us over. Did I get that right? A few from the bridge. They sent us over some comments as well, because I wanted to get like a balanced view, both sides. So, in your opinion, boys, you've had a good look at it now. What did you make of it?
Well, the video was helpful, so thanks for that. Because you're able to slow it down a little, and it did look as though Keith was trying to avoid Richardson on the way through. I have to say, when I saw it in real time,
it looked bad initially.
So that did cast a slightly different light on it. I think
it's difficult, isn't it, to say this without looking biased, but I think it's the correct call, because you could say, there's one side of the coin which says that Keith knows that by going in that direction he could have an impact on the play, and he's a veteran player, and you wouldn't begrudge him making that decision either. We won't know, of course, unless he says. The other side is it's a genuinely sort of innocent thing. Either way, it has had an impact on the scoring of that goal, because he's in Ben Bounds' eye line. The puck has, if not touched one of them, has come very close to touching one of them. So the intention for me is irrelevant in that instance. There's an impact made on the play when they can't be under the laws when you've lost the helmet. So in terms of the letter of the law, it's the correct call from Smith, isn't it?
What was your take on it, John?
No, I've watched it a few times.
I don't think there's any wrong or right with it.
No, I've been sort of 50-50 on it since seeing it the first time and seeing the incident slow down, and I do concur with Aled. Letter of the law, I think it's the right call. And I think Dean Smith will make gutsy calls. We've seen him award penalty shots and things like that. So letter of the law, I think it's a correct call. Keith absolutely does have an impact on the play, in that he knocks over Richardson. There's a potential screen there, there's potential interference. But he is trying to break to the bench. There is another route. He could go around the net, but he is trying to break to the bench. And he, I think, looking at the replay, does actually try to avoid Richardson. He tries to jump around him, because it's Richardson, not knowing he's there, backs into that area, that sort of zone coverage area, and there's the contact made. So I have a degree of sympathy. I think you're right. I think it's a professional play that he's probably thinking, if I don't go around the net and go to the front of the net, I can be a body in the high slot area. There might be a potential screen I can create while breaking to the bench. But is Dean Smith second guessing that? I'm not sure. So letter of the law is the right call, but I must admit I had a degree of sympathy for the Giants.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think looking at it, fair and even-handed, that's one of those decisions that could have gone either way.
Yeah, but I do think it's it's difficult, but you have to take intention out of it. And you know, if you look at a game of rugby, somebody goes in with a high tackle, or even in hockey with a high stick, you still get penalised for a high stick.
No, you're right.
You're the person who's got to control that. You still get penalised, you know, whether you intended to or not. He's not being chucked out of the game or anything. And from the moment that there is a penalty on the play, of course, then the goal gets disallowed. So I think if it had been made, the call had been made against the Devils on the night, I'd have probably felt it was fair. I'd have been a little bit frustrated that it then resulted in a power play, more so that then it resulted in a goal after it. But perhaps in the cold light today, it would have. But I can understand on the night, I would have probably been, a bit upset about the power play. But I think with the situation as it was, the power play, the penalty is the right call, because intentional or not, he's involved in the play. He's not going to
No.
And that's the.
You're right. And I refer it back to the other sport I follow, football. I heard Danny Murphy on 5 Live this week. He's talking about the fact now everyone assumes that every foul is a booking. And sometimes players know the game. They know when something has been a cynical foul that deserves a yellow card, and when something is just contact in a game. So I completely take your point about intention and taking intention out of it. But sometimes you want the referees to feel the flow of the game and have an understanding of what players are doing intentionally and what they're not doing intentionally. We can't be entirely sure whether Adam Keith was making that professional play to think, I can cut this line, I can potentially cause a screen or something or other. I think I come down on the side that Dean Smith is right, but I take myself out of the commentary box and put myself in the seat watching the Devils game, and a Devils player gets called for that. Yeah, I'm probably shouting and screaming and saying he's just trying to get to the bench. So it's maybe not a 50-50 call, but maybe like a 70-30 call or something. So I have a degree of sympathy for Keith and the Giants. But credit to Dean Smith, I should say, for making a gutsy call.
Oh, yes. Well, I think that's fair. I'm only going to kick off for a second now, just because time is running away.
Yeah, well, I'll try and be quick with the next point.
I asked Davey for a few comments. So first comment is on that call, and then the second one is just his general roundup on performances. And he said, I can understand why it was washed off. Had it been at the other end, my view might be slightly different. I can't see what rule has been infringed. That's my bigger argument, and no communication from the officials. So I think some felt that because maybe Dean didn't explain it, that they didn't really understand clearly what it caused. I think from seeing the replays, you can see what Dean is seeing, and he sees Keith skating across the net, and then unfortunately colliding with Richardson, even if Richardson is the one who's backing in. So
that makes it more obvious as well. And you at full time you can't really see, where and you just see contact from a guy who's not got a helmet, and so again you can see where Smith.
Yes, and then Davy's review on our performances. He says, and thanks for sending this in, Davy. You're a very well coached team. You have star players where your coach sets the tone. You block shots and protect boundaries brilliantly, keeping shots to the outside. I felt we schooled you most of the weekend, 5-on-5, but you dominated special teams. Credit to you for the performances. So I don't think that was necessarily unfair. I'm not sure they schooled us all weekend, but certainly on the Friday night, I thought they gave us a bit of a lesson in some areas, and maybe part of Saturday as well.
Yeah, I think generally when you play a road game, we've seen it with teams against the Devils, where the Steelers, particularly under previous coaches, have come down and the Devils have spent most of the night in the Steelers zone, and it gives the impression of dominance. But that's just the way that trap system works. So but it does give the impression of more dominance, perhaps, than it.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's. I thought, again, we were a little tentative in the first 10 minutes of that Saturday game, but from then on in, I thought it was a structured, conservative, excellent road performance. The Giants were always going to have more puck possession in that third period, and we're going to try and get pucks to the net, but the shot blocking was great. I agree entirely with that point. The Devils were very good at keeping the shots coming from the outside. So no, Saturday night I actually thought was a good road performance, and we probably deserved the win, which is, as you say, you've got to counterbalance that and say Saturday was very positive, because I did think Friday night wasn't a particularly good performance.
No. No,
Can I just come back
Yeah,
to
go
the
on.
thing?
Let's
Sorry,
go on.
I'll be quick, but I do think that there should have been some support for Dean Smith from the league following what happened. Comments were made after the game about the performance from the coach and the player. And personally, I don't think that's correct. I think I totally support generally, although it's not the ideal week to sort of talk about this, but the way things are done in rugby union, and I think that that precedent shouldn't be allowed, that players and coaches can make comments about the referee in that way, and at least perhaps if the league had come out and said that that the correct call was made, which it was by the letter of the law, that would be at least a way of supporting their officials, because the officials do have to be supported when they make correct decisions like that. And one thing I would say as well is that Andrew Lord talked about early last season was that a big change around happened with the Devils when they totally cut out worrying about what the referee was doing or decisions were made, and only controlled what they were able to control.
No, agreed.
And I think that's absolutely the right approach, and I do think that perhaps the league does need to step in some way there to make sure that this doesn't become a precedent set for the rest of the season.
The style of rugby. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So
Not do it in the way that World Rugby hung Joubert out to dry, though.
not that way. So we're definitely getting very tight on time.
Yeah.
So maybe, John, can you touch briefly on some line changes that you spotted during that game for us?
Well, it was a more general point. On a Saturday night, Andrew Lord did sort of shuffle the pack again, and Kirker and Doucette went out with Salters, and I think Avato played on the wing. Haddad centred a line then with Walton, and it worked. My concern is there's still only one line going with fluency at the moment, and I still don't think we've got good players who are getting us out of trouble, but I still don't think the coach is completely happy with how those other two units are going to look. I don't particularly like Kirker and Doucette on the same line together from a defensive point of view. They are great defensive players, but I think zone coverage from both of them isn't fantastic. So have them on the same line is a bit risky. So I still think we're working on what our other line combinations are going to be. And just to that end, I think Chris Culligan will be very important when he comes back into the mix. In my head, and I might be completely wrong, but I think sometime before Christmas you'll see a line with Culligan centering Kirker and Walton, mainly because Culligan and Walton had chemistry last year, and I think Culligan can skate with Kirker and provide defensive cover for Kirker.
No, I agree. No, sorry, Ali.
No.
So we can't quite cover everything off. There was some DOPS reviews, and I would suggest that anybody's interested probably should have a little look at that themselves, because they're fairly clear-cut when you see the replays. On Saturday, we're going to play the ever-improving Edinburgh team, who had some excellent results lately, particularly their great comeback win against Fife. And then we're going to be playing Nottingham Panthers, so we're away in Edinburgh. That's a rink we do sometimes struggle in. It's not an easy rink to play in, and they are a very good side this year, so I don't dare to be underestimated. We're then going to play Nottingham Panthers at home on Sunday. We know they also can be a difficult side, maybe lacking a little bit of pace, but they have got Ling back now. I think they're going to be a challenge for us. Apologies that we're rushing through it a little bit, but I think
there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There was a lot to talk about this week. So I hope everybody's enjoyed the programme. I don't think we can really say much about anything else, boys, but anything you want to say before the end?
No, I don't think Edinburgh can be...
They've won 5 in a row at home, haven't they?
They can't be taken lightly.
Big comeback win as well, so you're never out of it.
No.
And, I like their team. They're down on bodies, but they're obviously playing that can galvanise the team, as we saw with the result against Sheffield. So tough game. I don't know if we're flying up for that one. I'm not sure. I hope we are with the Panthers the next night as well. Be a good game. It's always a good game against the Panthers. So
a message for Caps Banter Army, and a message for the guys. Obviously, be nice to the Caps, because we don't want to be featured in their special review every week.
Well, now you've mentioned it.
Yeah.
So hopefully we won't get mentioned, because we'll be very nice and very friendly as Celtic cousins.
Absolutely.
So something to look forward to, though. I think 2 excellent games probably on the weekend.
Yeah.
Tough away trip to Edinburgh, and then an interesting home game against Nottingham.
Very much
So thank you for your time again, gentlemen.
That's all. Thank you,
Thank you for the contributors to the show tonight. The Giants TV, really appreciate that. David McJimsey, thanks very much, everyone.